I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, good morning, everybody. Start out the meeting here with approving and executing resolution 14052, itemizing the financials for the meeting of April 8th, 2014. Good morning, Heidi. Hi, Heidi.
The financials today include supplemental appropriation for water resources for awarded contracts for the Thompson Sewer Project. Trevor request for county home, jobs and family services and transit. Quarterly payment of $68,566.25 to the OSU extension. Payment of $25,914.84 to Wolf Mason Limited or LTD for architectural services for the engineer's office addition. And a payment of $103,023.51 for Mr. Excavator work for work performed on the Water Resources Russell Township Center Sewer Project.
So moved.
Second?
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Second thing on the agenda will be the Geauga County Tourism will give a presentation update.
Okay, I gotta swing this around now. So, shield your eyes.
This is close enough. Next page.
And then there's one, this one's right in front of you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Well, we're always last on the agenda. Now I feel like the opening act. Thank you for having us this morning. We always like to come and give a little overview as to what's going on in the tourism world. I know a lot of people don't think of tourism as a hot destination as Geauga County because we live here, but it really is. And we like to open with our mission statement because a lot of folks think of tourism as just a warm, fuzzy thing, but it really is a huge way to stimulate our economic growth in the county. Let's face it, visitors bring money. So our mission statement is to stimulate the economic growth for Geauga County through year-round tourism. And although that seems like a tough job with some of the winters that we have here in Geauga County, it really is not that bad. We are very fortunate to have a very elongated tourism season with a beautiful fall that leads into kind of a late winter, actually, when you think about it. And in November, we have some great seasonal shopping with a lot of our small businesses, our Amish shops. And then we start up again so early with our maple sugaring season, so we're actually very fortunate. How do we accomplish getting folks into our area? Unfortunately, we don't have this humongous budget to spend, so we really rely on target marketing. We work with a lot of regional partners to do this. We work with, first of all, Brand USA. We've been seeing a huge influx of international tourists. Brand USA is the organization that brings folks from other countries into the United States. And ironically, the gentleman who is now a huge component of Brand USA used to be the Ohio designate that would bring folks into Ohio. He actually spoke at our annual meeting 2 years ago. He's very fond of Geauga County, so he's a great person to have in our port. That narrows them into United States, then that brings them into Tourism Ohio. That brings them into Ohio. We work with Tourism Ohio to get them focused on our area. From there, we work with Adventures in Northeast Ohio, again, to narrow that bullseye, bringing them into our area. And from there, we work with Positively Cleveland, again, narrowing that bullseye to bring them closer and closer to us. And then, of course, into Geauga County. So using our limited budget, it's through partnering that we narrow that scope to bring them exactly where we want them, and that's into our county. Our key marketing tools, our Geauga County Visitor Guide, which I hope you all have in your possession. If not, they're in the lobby. We also use a fantastic website, which we're going to be overhauling this year. And then, of course, social media. It's our favorite tool because it's absolutely free. It's something that everybody's using now. And debuting in 2014, our brand new Tour Geauga app, which I hope you all have loaded on your smartphone. If you don't, please do. You can just purchase that. Actually, it's free in your Google store. Go online and you can just download that for absolutely free. something very handy. A lot of folks get on our rural back roads and get absolutely turned around and lost. This is something that is very easy to navigate. And best of all, it was put together by a local company right here in Geauga County, Tech 3. So all you have to do is download that. It'll show you what's nearby when you're out on the roads. It'll give you a directory of all kinds of great businesses. It'll actually give you directions from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. And actually it'll bring up some hot deals. So even if you're a local and you're looking for some great things to find and to buy, it brings up coupons and discounts to your favorite stores. So make sure you download that. It's been a great tool so far for us. Also brand new, through one of our partnerships with Adventures in Northeast Ohio, they put out a brand new regional map for Northeast Ohio. And through some diligence and great planning, we were able to purchase the back cover. So the back panel of that map, which looks like this, and again there's some out in the lobby, the whole back panel is Northeast Ohio and Geauga County. That gets us into a lot of locations that we could not afford to advertise on our own. And as our marketer put it, we now have plot value, a term that I've never heard before. But when somebody puts this down, there's a 50-50 chance it's going to end up this way, and that's what people are going to see. So it really is getting us into all of the large attractions. It's getting us into all of the ODOT centers. It's getting us into a lot of locations that previously we have not had the budget to get all of our brochures into. So it's a new great marketing tool for us. And of course, our growing membership. People are really seeing the value of marketing with us. For their $75 membership, we're giving them a great value, helping them with their press releases, helping them market, giving them a presence online, especially smaller businesses that, believe it or not, still don't have a website or any presence online, especially some of our Amish businesses. So right now we're at over 190 members, and it's easy to market because there's always something fantastic going on in Geauga County. The economic impact of tourism. I apologize for the old numbers. How we get our numbers is every other year we are allowed to purchase a study through the state of Ohio. So the figures that we actually have right now are from 2011. We will purchase our 2013 numbers this year, and we'll actually have them in July. But I just wanted to throw a few numbers in there just so you can kind of see the figures that are associated with bringing people into our county. This is 2011 again, but more importantly, look at the trend. And I know that 2007, 2008, 2009, we were coming off a bad economic trend. But in 2011, the sales volume in Geauga County, $185.6 million attributed to tourism, and that's in direct and indirect sales. Again, through people coming through our doors, spending their money, restaurants, events, attractions. This is just kind of neat, looking at Geauga County by comparison to the other counties around it. The darker the blue, the higher the economic impact and the sales. You can kind of see the darkest blues, and you can pick those counties out. Those are the counties that have the largest cities. Like if you look in the middle, you're looking at the Columbus area. If you look around us, you're looking at Youngstown, Cuyahoga County, the Lakeshore counties, Cincinnati. So we're not in bad shape, and you'll notice the one thing about us that we'll talk about in a minute, we're really holding our own, and we're lacking something that the larger counties around us have. Dave's shaking his head. Lodging. So that's the one thing that's holding us back a little bit. But I will say in the past 2 years, since we received this study the last time around, we actually have grown a shade darker, which tells us we're moving definitely in the right direction. As far as tax generated by tourism, this is what it's showing us. Right now, again, this is for 2011, federal taxes generated, and it's giving us an over $11 million figure. Local taxes, and again, this is broken down specifically to Geauga County, over $4 million for a total of $23 million, and again, attributed toward tourism. And you're going to ask, how do they pick this out? How do they pull these figures out? How is this just known for tourism dollars? Tourism economics is a third-party source that the state contracts to go through these numbers. They look at bed tax, they look at sales, they survey all these companies. They go back through records, through tax records, through surveying private people on their vacation records. They go back through airlines. They go back through a myriad of different companies and records to come to this conclusion of how this data is put together. We sat down for a 3-hour meeting one day with them to learn about how they do all this. Basically, this is what it was. At the conclusion of 3 hours, this is what I heard, because they had such convoluted formulas that I have no idea. But they really make it work, and they come up with these figures, and they know what they're talking about. But that's really all I heard. It was a bunch of story problems. I went back to 4th grade, and I went, I don't know. But they really know what they're doing, and that's why we pay them big money for this study, apparently. So, what's in the works for us for 2014? A major overhaul to our website. We're actually collecting RFPs right now, again, from only Geauga County companies. We want to keep our money local, and we're going to do an overhaul of our website. When our website was first put together in 2008, I believe, we actually won a state award because it was new and it was innovative. It still is wonderful, it's just a little dated. We're going to keep all the bells and whistles we currently have, we're just going to update. So that will be a new thing for us for next year. We actually have a couple of very interesting new tours coming down the pike, again bringing folks in. One of them is going to showcase Observatory Park. If you have not been to Geauga Park District's Observatory Park, please go. It's one of 11 in the world. It's a dark sky designated park. It's given that designation because of its lack of light pollution. It's absolutely phenomenal, and we were able to sell that to some group tours because of that. So that's something new that we have coming in. And here are words I never thought I would say out loud. We are actually going to be a port of call for a cruise line. Yes, we are. Cleveland is now doing little lake cruises through Blount Cruise Lines, and through an affiliation I have through a regional group, she had put together a country and city tour. So we are going to be part of that, and apparently we're going to be the country part. And these folks are going to get off their cruise ship, they're going to spend the day in Cleveland, and then they're going to come spend the afternoon in Geauga County. And they're going to tour our area, they're going to have dinner here, and they're going to drop some serious money before we put them back on the cruise ship. So I thought that was really kind of an interesting tie with Geauga County. So,
will that start this summer?
Yeah, it's going to start this summer. As a matter of fact, the ladies are coming out on Monday to meet with me and do kind of a drive-through of some of the locations that they would like to see. We've been talking about this for a long time. This is one of our issues. The good news is, in 2013, we have received the highest amount of bed tax that we ever had in a fiscal cycle. That's fantastic. For those of you that have not heard my presentation before, we love the lodging that we have in Geauga County. We truly have phenomenal lodging. Punderson and the Red Maple, Bass Lake, Club at Hillbrook are our bed tax providing entities that are wonderful, and don't get me wrong, we support them wholeheartedly. They do a phenomenal job, but they have their limitations as to how many they can hold. And when we try to put up large groups of people or group tours or people that are looking for a certain price point, then we hit walls. So this year we had a fantastic year bed tax wise. It was our highest fiscal ever. The not so good news, when I look compared to our counties surrounding us, this is how we add up. Bed tax is something that's collected by the hotels from the folks that stay at the hotels. Visitor bureaus are funded mainly by bed tax. So Ashtabula County, $437,000 last year collected. Lake County, $860,000 collected last year. Trumbull County, $301,000 collected last year. Geauga County, our highest year ever, $59,000. So even though we're extremely excited, I put that into perspective and I go, wow, I still wish that we could do much more. So what can we do? First and foremost, I don't want to give anybody the wrong idea. We're still going to continue to promote all the great lodging that we currently have, because that's what we have, and we're going to stand by our businesses here in the county. but we are going to work to bring additional lodging to Geauga County. We've had 2 brand hotels that we've spoke to recently that are interested in Geauga County. And before anybody's going to do anything about coming into our county, a feasibility study has to be done. For that feasibility study to be done, somebody has to pay for that feasibility study. So right now, what we're doing is we're helping to identify the needs, and we're doing that working through various methods. We just put out a survey. We're working with Geauga Growth Partnership, and a survey went out last week to identify some other needs. We know that we have needs with group tours. When a bus comes into our county, we can't have them overnight because we can't put 52 people anywhere. We know that we have families that call us and they're looking for a price point and they're looking for an adjoining room. They have tweens and they want them close by but not necessarily in the same room, and we don't have that adjoining room capability. We know we have a group of retailers having a little mini convention this year in our county, and they called and they said we want to put 100 people somewhere. You know, we have those issues all the time, and unfortunately we don't have a good solution for them. Our very own leadership Geauga class can't stay in our county for their overnight retreat. That saddens me. So we know we have those needs. We're working with GGP to find out industrial-wise. We know we have a lot of corporate folks in the county that bring in folks for training and people for touring. What are their needs? Where are they putting these people? Are they staying in the county? If we had something in the county, would they use it? Where would they put them? So far, we've gotten fantastic response back from our industrial leaders in the county, and we see that that's a definite need. So we're gathering that information right now, and we're working to find a way to cover the feasibility study, and that'll be our next step. Once we know there's a feasibility study done, and that it shows that Geauga County is a feasible place for a new hotel, that'll be a really selling point to work with one of these hotel brands to make it actually happen. We need to make it easier for people to come to Geauga County and leave their money here. The truth of the matter is, once we send them out of the county to spend the night, oops, I think I just did something bad. Push the wrong button. Oops, there we go. Once they go out of the county to spend the night, they're gone. Here's the truth of the matter. This was a study that Tourism Ohio just did. The overnight market is growing, and when people come into the area for a day trip, they're coming out, they're spending the day, they're spending their money. They typically spend about $108. If they're going to overnight, they're going to spend $321 on the average. They're going to spend the night, they're going to get up, they're going to have breakfast. They might stay a little bit longer into the day. They might do some additional shopping. Before they leave, they're going to put gas in their car. All money going back into our coffers of Geauga County. So for every $100 spent at a small local business, $68 returns back into our community, and that's the money we want to capture. It's really important. So that is something that we are going to continue to work on to keep that dollar here in Geauga County. In the meantime, what's on our agenda? Geauga County Tourism promotes everybody else's events, but we do 2 here in the county every year to help raise a little bit of money for our coffers and also to keep our businesses vital. So coming up in a couple of weeks, our annual Spring Drive It Yourself tour. If you haven't done it, it's a lot of fun. It's one of our big days out, and it looks just like this. There are some of these in the lobby. We ask members who want to participate, 25 area businesses, jump on the bandwagon. It's a one-day event, May 3rd. You have 25 options. You get to at least 10 of them, get your map stamped, show up at the finale, and there's fabulous prizes and music and fun, and it's a great way to spend a lot of cash in the county in one day. It's kind of like a small business fair kind of day. Every one of those businesses is offering a special or a discount or a deal or a coupon. It's a great way to get people out to really see businesses they may not have been to before. We do that in conjunction with National Tourism Week every year. The second thing that we do is our big fundraiser for the year is our Hometown Hoedown. That's coming up on September 27th. Another great day in the country. We do a band, we do a silent auction, just a lot of fun. It's a way that we earn a little extra money, and that all goes back into our budget for advertising our county and keeping us vibrant. I thank you so much for your time, and that's a little bit about what we're doing. Our office is in Middlefield, right at the corner of 608 and 87. We share the building with the Good News. If you ever need anything or have folks coming into the county and require maps, visitor guides, or any assistance, please feel free to give us a call. Our website is tourgeauga.com. Thank you.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, there's, oh, the,
Okay. Was there any questions at all for the tourism from anybody, or is everybody okay with that? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out. Bye-bye, Craig.
thank you.
Okay, so number 2 is completed. Now we'll move to 3 and 4 with the county treasurer is requesting the board. What do we have here?
Your monthly financial statements.
Okay, do you want to just read 3 and 4 then, and we'll go through that?
The county treasurer is requesting the board accept, execute, and file the monthly statement of county finances filed by the county treasurer for the month of February 2014 pursuant to ORC 319.15. The county auditor is requesting the board accept, execute, and file the monthly statement of county finances filed by the county auditor for the month of February 2014 pursuant to ORC 319.15.
I'll move both of those.
And second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. Both motions approved. Number 5 is Department of Aging.
Good morning.
Morning.
The next 3 have to do with the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging Board. There are 2 positions available on their 5-county advisory board and 1 on their board of trustees. So when our advisory board met this month, they did appoint 2 of the members to serve on those boards.
And the qualifications on these board members?
You know, basically the qualifications were to be appointed by our president and approved by the board. We have a newer member, Diane Ryder. She's a newer board member, so that's why she was going to be on just the advisory board. They meet every 2 months. More of a way to just get some ideas out there, collaborate on ideas for the aging. Kelly Schlereth, she's at the Sisters of Notre Dame. She plays a very integral role there. She does a lot with the sisters and housing and a lot of their daily activities. So she's been on the board a bit longer as well. She's at least on her 2nd term.
So
that's
Kelly
why
Schlereth, she's definitely got some experience.
she has some
for that.
experience, and that's why we wanted her on the board of trustees, more of a decision making.
And as
In
far
addition
as
to,
this Diane Ryder, does she have experience?
yes, I mean she's been around the aging community for a while, as well as she also writes still for the Naples.
Sure. Yeah, that'll be good.
Okay. The Department on Aging is requesting the board appoint Diane Ryder to the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, 5-County Advisory Council on Aging for the term ending December 31st, 2015. The Department on Aging is requesting the board appoint Kelly Schlereth to the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, 5-County Advisory Council on Aging for the term ending December 31st, 2015. The Department on Aging is requesting the board appoint Kelly Schlereth to the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging Board of Trustees for the term ending December 31st, 2016.
I'll move those 3 items.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
The next is our homemaker and personal care will be up in August, so we wanted to begin the bid process just for 1 year.
Okay.
We currently have 196 persons currently receiving those services. The last bid that we did, we were estimating 165 people. So in an effort to not drop anyone off the service who needs the services, we are going to just increase our units by about 8% and look to serve 185. Some will naturally come off the service as they either don't need it anymore or they may have to go to placement, so that's
Okay.
the only change.
Fair enough. You can read number 8.
The Department on Aging is requesting the board grant permission to advertise for bids for home care services, homemaker, and personal care for Geauga County residents age 60 and over to be held on Wednesday, June 4, 2014 at 2:00 p.m. Notice of this bid opening will be advertised on April 17, 2014, April 24, 2014, and on the county website.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. And what do we have here? This is with the lease for Grace Lutheran.
Yes, that is the last lease to take care of. We are looking at $75 per day. Right now, we have a yearly census at Thompson of about 143 with our average daily census at 16. That puts our per person per day count at about $4.68. That's pretty close in line with our other places. Middlefield is exceptionally lower at $33 a day, $116 per person per day. Chagrin Falls Park, $92 a day, $288 per person per day. And West Geauga, while it's about $170 a day, the per person rate is $379. So.
Okay. This facility is used 1 day a week?
It is used 1 day a week.
Currently?
Only on Thursdays. And as far as square footage goes here, the total square footage is 5,664 square feet. However, we rarely use the sanctuary, so I would say our average use is about 3,098 square feet.
Yes, sounds good. We can read number 9.
The Department on Aging is requesting the board approve and execute the lease with Grace Lutheran Church for a 1-year term, April 1st, 2014 through March 31st, 2015, in the amount of $75 per day.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. Motion approved. Number 10.
Last year, we partnered with Geauga, Geauga, to do a health program, health outreach services. We wanted to continue that, but put in some extra events. So what we are looking to do is each site, including Thompson, do 1 education and screening per month. In addition to that, 4 programs throughout the year. So a quarterly mass event program, health and wellness program, which would bring us to, those 4 programs for the mass events, and then 55, because we started in February, screenings and educations at each of the senior centers. So there will be a minimum of 59 programs that Geauga will be doing. And then they're also apt to do above and beyond, getting any guest speakers we need. If we find that our seniors are interested in diabetes education or cancer, they want a guest speaker, they're open to providing that as well, above and beyond.
Okay. Seemed like the program was fairly well taken last year too,
It was, and I think, I'm kind of walking into this as it was semi-developed, so definitely we really want to focus on health and wellness, because the healthier we are, the more well we are, the more we can do the things we like to do.
Okay. We could read number 10.
The Department on Aging is requesting the board approve and execute the Senior Health Outreach Services Agreement with University Hospitals Geauga Medical Center to provide education or information programs at the 5 center locations on a monthly basis for Geauga County residents ages 60 and over for the period April 8, 2014 through December 31st, 2014 in the amount of $24,000.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. Motion approved. And last but not least here,
The senior assessment program. It's an opportunity for us to connect families and their loved ones with services at Geauga to get a thorough assessment to see if indeed, they may have dementia, or is it an underlying medical condition. So it offers examination from physical therapists, a psychologist, pharmacist, nurse, social worker. So it's a comprehensive assessment. They did this from, I believe, 2011 through 13. I'm sorry, 12 through 13. In 2012, we did 28 assessments, and in 13, 55 assessments. We had previously went to bid because we were anticipating it was going to be a huge program, but it wasn't utilized to that capacity. So I'd like to just go for 1 year at an 85 cap, see how that takes off, and hopefully it will grow.
And part of this is really, you're trying to have somebody objectively see whether a senior is safe in their own home by themselves.
Indeed. And sometimes the seniors are misdiagnosed. They might have a brain tumor, and, they're forgetting, they're having some behavioral issues, but it might be a brain tumor, not dementia. So we want to avoid some misdiagnosis, because it's 2 different treatment paths.
and on this, if they have their own insurance that would cover that, then that would be paid by them. is the way that was set up even last year, I think.
Yeah, we just pay the $460. They may be responsible for any co-pays.
Okay. Is there a question?
Yeah, in regard to these programs, aren't they covered under Medicare too? I mean, if they're covered under Medicare, I mean, now the county's paying kind of, the money's already there.
You know, when I talked with UH, I did ask the question about Medicare. It's just the senior assessment goes above and beyond. It's that collaboration of all of the professionals. It's a one-stop. It's a one-stop shop. So you have the doctor, you have the psychiatrist, you have everyone together for this one comprehensive assessment. And with talking with UH and Luann, that's kind of outside of the scope of Medicare. It will cover, you know, certain tests and whatnot. So that's why we handle that $460.
Okay. I guess my concern is if Medicare is going to cover those programs,
And it's not going to.
We're now spending more county money on a program that's already covered.
Medicare isn't going to cover that mass meeting of all the professionals, because I did ask Lou Ann about that, because I said, hey, if Medicare is going to cover this, you know, why can't we just be billed afterwards? And, you know, after talking with her and talking with Cheryl Holloway over there as well, you know, they explained that really Medicare doesn't cover an assessment of that magnitude with so many professionals coming together at one time to treat one.
But then my question would be, how do you determine who needs a further assessment? We don't need to pay for everybody's assessment if we don't need it.
Well, what we do is we have a different referral sources, and they do the assessment program. I mean, it's based upon referral. So they go and they have the senior assessment. Anything after that, like treatment, of course, is, you know, through the insurance, Medicare, whatever they have. So this is just, you know, step one. Any further testing and treatment we're not covering.
And just to add to that, last year I asked the same questions because it had come up, and what we found was just where there was a value for it was a lot of situations where there wasn't. You know, today it's getting better and better where there's planning for, you know, benefits and difference of, you know, funds and stuff, but there's still a population that, you know, even in our county that we have that are very, very limited as far as dollars and cents for medical treatment, but they just haven't either a coverage or haven't planned for it. And what we found, you know, is that we have people that basically will try to either self-diagnose or get the wrong type of treatment, and in a sense end up really putting them in a position, and also kind of giving our county services more of a challenge and more dollars spent to basically process and support these people through this. And this kind of gives us an opportunity that you know, they kind of go, you know, it actually in the long run it looks like it actually saves us money because of the fact that we're putting a lot of resources on some cases that are actually could be potentially some serious cases that we would have never had the means to try to go and to do this, and it actually in turn we would have had these people, you know, to deal with them on a daily basis, plus shortening their lives in the sense of misdiagnosis or issue that could have been caught and you know, at an earlier stage, where it's kind of a benefit that, you know, it's something that, you know, part of the budget, you know, it set those dollars aside for, but it's something that you know, our experience as far as talking to some people last year, I talked to one lady that, you know, she took advantage of the program. Her husband had passed away about 7 months ago, and just she ended up with a form of cancer, and she ended up going to actually an assessment. She was having issues with her eyes. Turned out she actually had brain cancer and was able to be kind of caught a little bit earlier. So it's just something that, you know, as far as right now too, it just, with this whole insurance thing, it's kind of like up in the air. But I understand, I agree 100% with what you're saying, but it's not an issue that it's like super abused, and it's selective on how it's delegated.
And just to give you a little bit of information, What was budgeted in the past was 156 assessments per year. What was actually utilized in 2012, 28 assessments were done. In 2013, 55 assessments were done. So that's why I'm looking to put like 85 as the cap and then see what's utilized.
So that cost is based on 85 assessments. If you do 50,
We only pay per assessment. They bill us per assessment. Yeah, there's no flat rate. It's $460 per assessment. And then just lastly, specifically with dementia, I think is where a lot of these come from. And there are a lot of different, like I said, different tumors or Parkinson's can sometimes be, some dementia can show some Parkinsonian symptoms. So you definitely, if you can treat it, let's not put someone in a nursing home and go through that, if it can be treated. So this really helps, figure out the right course of treatment.
Alrighty. Okay, if we can read number 11.
The Department on Aging is requesting the board approve and execute the contract agreement with University Hospital's Geauga Medical Center to provide senior assessments for Geauga County residents aged 60 and over for the period April 8, 2014 through December 31st, 2014 in the amount of $460 per senior with the amount not to exceed 85 assessments.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye, motion approved.
Thank you. Have a nice
All right,
day.
thank you.
Here.
Okay, we've got the Office of Community Economic Development. Hello.
Good
How are you?
morning. How are you?
Good,
Aye,
good.
how are you?
Okay, this is our first status report for the Thompson Sewer Grant. And as you know, it's very preliminary. We just went out to bid with the Water Resources Department, so we have not expended any funds through the CDBG portion of this grant as of date.
Okay, we can go ahead and read number 12.
The Office of Community and Economic Development is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the Ohio Community Development Block Grant Program Status Report for Water and Sewer Grant number Z-W-13-1AZ-1 for the period September 1st, 2013 through March 2nd, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Motion approved. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, and we have the engineer's office. Hi, Joe.
Morning. Morning.
Just asking the commissioners today to award the contract for the replacement of Fowler's Mill Road Bridge to Burton Scott. It came in at about $190,000, almost $191,000. Our estimate was $180,000. Some of the changes that were made as a result of discussions with residents and so forth caused that to raise, and we obviously didn't adjust our estimates. It was already out to bid. So still well within the legal thresholds, and just asking the commissioners to approve this, to award this. And we do have all signed work agreements from all the residents touching the property. Everything's a go. No issues. The only thing we're waiting on is for Mr. Voss to pick the color. He wanted to pick the color. We've given him the dye lot samples for the color of the sealer, and we're still waiting on that, but that shouldn't be an issue.
This is the sealer that goes on the culvert?
On the concrete.
Yeah, the concrete part.
Yeah, we put a sealer on it to protect the concrete itself
Right.
from salt and everything else from the weather, but you can add color
Yeah,
to
tint it,
it to
whichever.
just make it not stand out so much, and which we always do. They want to pick the color, so we have no problem with that. We gave them all the dye lots to choose from. They got it down to 2. We just haven't resolved that yet. So that's the only thing out there, but they don't have any problems at this point.
Okay. You have a question?
Yes, it was a resolution on the guardrail.
The township trustees said that after the project is built, they'll take a look at it, and if they desire to put it up, they can put it up. That's the last I heard on it.
Yeah, I commend you too, Joe, as far as just, you did a good job engineering that, the bridge and meeting all your standards and kind of working through some of these issues, so
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay, if we could read number 13.
The county engineer's office is requesting the board award the bid to Burton Scott Contractors LLC for the replacement of the Fowler's Mill Road Bridge structure number 108-018 in Munson Township in the amount of $190,725 as they represented the lowest and best bid. The bid bond submitted shall be held to serve as a performance bond for this project.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Motion approved. Thank you, Joe. Okay. Is somebody here?
No, Mike's at ODOT school, so this is
Okay.
just our standard quarterly refund of the
Yep.
state gas tax.
Okay. You want to read number 14?
The Transit Department is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the Ohio Motor Fuel Tax refund claim for transit buses for the period January 1st, 2014 through March 31st, 2014 in the amount of $2,530.81.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Motion stands approved. What a waste of paper that is. Seriously.
I know.
All that.
Yeah.
Oh, you Tracy was saying the
No,
same
but just
thing.
one signature or whatever. Morning, Jerry. How are you?
Wasn't sure I knew. I didn't grab a new agenda when I walked in.
Oh.
I was working, I was like, well, maybe I'm not next.
So you,
Okay, this item is just the update of our 208 plan for Thompson Township based on the sewer project. This is adding all the additional properties that are included within from the original plan that was put together back in, I think it was 2008 when the project got started that they
Okay.
came up with.
this is the big one and then there's several
Okay.
other ones.
So Jerry, just give us the brief overview on this as far as we're going to do. This is going to be the plot, correct? With that the plant is going to go.
Yes, well, there's that and then the additional properties on the north side of Thompson that were added when the plant was originally gonna be on the other side of the project, or
Okay.
the other side of that property.
Okay.
We kept, when the plant was moved to the east
East side.
property side, we kept the sewer line still going to those properties on the north side of the road.
Okay. Okay.
So it's adding those, and then the township wants to extend the sewer up to their garage up on north of 528. So that's
Okay.
an additional 2 properties north.
Okay. Okay. And this is just going to be an overview, right? On the smaller side of things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they just did the big one for when it comes to planning and then the other
Correct.
ones, so that they all have a copy of it.
Okay. All right. If we can read number 15 then. Yep.
The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and execute the revised Thompson Township 208 Water Quality Management Plan to include additional properties associated with the Thompson Sewer Project.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Motion is going to
Thank
stand
you.
approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Good day.
All righty, Mr. Rears. Yes, yes.
Yep. I understand.
Okay, the next one we will have is Kathy Asta.
Well, this is, just asking the board to designate her
Okay.
as your representative at the annual meeting for SEPCO, for the benefits.
Yep,
So
she's
this-
been that.
Yeah, she's the
for,
specialist on that. That's,
okay.
the meeting's this Friday, so.
Okay. All right, if we could read number 16 then.
The Commissioner's Office is requesting the board designate Kathy Hostetler as the representative from Geauga County at the ZEPCO annual membership meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Number 17, Dave.
This is, apparently, you really don't have that much that needs to be handled on Thursday, so this is to cancel session for Thursday's meeting, the morning meeting.
Okay, if we could read number 17.
The Commissioner's Office is requesting the board cancel session for Thursday, April 10th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Motion approved. And number 18. Dave, are you handling this?
Well, I'm handling, Commissioner Ware's been involved with me as well. Just want to give you an update. We've, in the aftermath of what happened at Transit, we've been looking at resources to give us kind of a fresh set of eyes on operation to make sure that it's being run as efficiently as possible, make sure there aren't any operational issues or accounting issues. So we've identified 3 resources to consider. Clemens Nelson, we talked about, I think, here briefly before, did a review of the county engineer's office last year when Joe took over. And they specialize in public sector entities, and they've given us a proposal to do an organizational performance analysis for under $7,000. So that's something to consider. We actually have a short contract that's in legal being reviewed, so that'd be something for you to consider. The other resources were recommended out of ODOT, a company called RLS and Associates out of Dayton, and Brady Ware and Schoenfield. Now the difference there is these two entities both focus, they're specialized in Ohio transit entities. And RLS in particular works with rural transit systems, just like Geauga Transit. So they have the experts, they can go in there and they can take a look at the accounting, they can take a look at the operations, and they can see if there's any kind of specific problems that, you know, they have the expertise that, you know, you or I or even an accounting firm or even Clemens Nelson doesn't have the experience in going in to look, see, is there any anomalies? Is there anything that hasn't been run correctly in that transit operation? So we're actually going to get a proposal for them later this week.
Okay.
And look at them. Brady Ware, the other company that ODOT recommended, actually works at RLS. Brady Ware is an accounting firm, and they specialize in forensic accounting for public transit entities. So going forward and looking at RLS, it might be something they propose that Brady Ware does a specific assignment to look at the accounting. If there's anything there RLS doesn't feel that they are capable of looking at. So the whole goal here is to have a fresh set of eyes, you know, nobody connected with the county, looking at this to make sure that if there's anything there that needs to be corrected, that going forward it is correct. So that, we just wanted to bring that up, and when we have the final approved proposal back from Clemens Nelson, I'll be bringing that back to the board to consider after we've heard from RLS.
Okay.
We'll take a look at that, probably get their contract as well.
Listening to Clemens Nelson when they were here and the folks on the conference call yesterday from RLS, it looks like they both do almost like we focus on this part of a problem, and the RLS was the accounting, financial, dig in, make sure everything is compliant there, but they don't do it didn't sound to me as though they did the overview of all the interviews of the employees to get more accurate or revised job descriptions, what they're doing staffing wise and so on and so forth.
The RLS has been working with ODOT for 26 years,
Yeah.
and they actually provide the resources, they call them circuit riders, that ODOT will, we've already talked to ODOT directly, that they would provide us with someone through ODOT to maybe come in a couple times a month just to look and see how we're doing. But if we feel like we need a little more intensive work up front, then we would contract separately with them for that assistance. So we'll just see if we need it.
I mean, listening to them,
Right.
They said, well, we come out and do this anyway, but how in depth do they do it? So until we hear from them, which hopefully is
Later on this week,
this
we'll
week,
hear back from RLS.
it'll be difficult to make that decision. The Clemens Nelson folks have been, their original estimates came in a little higher, but because the engineer staff used them, and the engineer staff, or engineered, has them on retainer,
Okay.
their original quote to us, they agreed to remove the retainer because the county,
Already
and
pays for it.
there's someone in the county already paying for it. So that was $2,100 savings right there. And it brought the, no reduction in their services or what they plan to provide.
Right.
And that retainer allows us to call them anytime in a year's period of time to question, get straightened out, and so on and so forth at no charge.
Okay.
It sounds like it's a pretty good deal, but we'll wait till we hear the other and maybe bring this, once we get another thing back, bring it back
Yeah.
up in front of us next Tuesday.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Because if we decide to do this, we need to, if we decide to do this, we need to do it sooner than later, and get the thing running.
Okay.
I mean, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Are they planning to do a presentation like Clemson Nelson, or are they just
Well, yeah, I mean, if the proposal looks acceptable, you know, they're down in Dayton, so I hate to waste
Okay,
people's
okay.
time. If it looks like, yeah, this is exactly what we need, then the next step would be to have them maybe come up and present.
And is that gonna be an issue as far as with with them being in Dayton? I know that the people that were with Clemson Nelson were.
We have some
actual
local people, right, right. Well, obviously, that's an advantage of Clemens Nelson. The advantage of RLS is they have a lot more experience looking specifically. They know where to look.
Yeah.
They look at a rural transit in Ohio, and they know exactly what to hone in on and say, is there an issue here? And you really want somebody, I mean, you know, maybe Clemens Nelson could give us operational and managerial recommendations that could be logical not only for transit, but other departments you might want to look at. Well, these guys focus on transit.
The county,
Right.
financial.
And with the Clemens Nelson, did they have it packaged as the whole thing?
Well, it's an operational review, so they're gonna just look in general like a normal business, and they have done a couple transits, so they
Okay.
have some transit background.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, we just, you know, and maybe ultimately Clemens Nelson can do the whole thing, and we're gonna get help from RLS, from their circuit writer anyway. So we
Okay.
might kind of learn what we need to know without actually engaging them in a contract. But I guess we want to look at the proposal and talk a little more, and then you guys can decide which way you want to go.
Okay.
We don't have the information
Yeah.
from the one outfit, we could make it up. That wouldn't have to be helpful.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate the update on that. Okay, number 19, we have Walter Skip Claypool will briefly address the board regarding his concern about NOACA and the NEOSCC.
You gonna use that thing?
Well, I'm going to ask him.
You
I have
using
the
that?
3 files you sent on Friday loaded up on this computer. So if you want to refer to any of those, I can turn that back on and we can pull them up.
I refer to a couple of those. I do have a presentation.
Okay.
Now, I don't have to use it.
Whatever you wanna do.
I can, I'll leave it to you guys. What I do want to bring to you, though, is a copy of a letter from some trustees in Sagamore Hills. There's two different letters.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
And I have a copy for you. And these are opposing NEOCC. I want to, first of all, thank you for the time. I'm very disappointed Mary's not here. As the president of NOACA, I'm very familiar with what's going on with NEOCC. It would have been great for her to be here to address the issues that I'm going to bring up. And so I would ask all the people in the audience, since Mary's not here and she is the president of the board for NOACA and responsible to you, after I can say what I'm going to say today, you may want to talk to Mary. I mean, she has a unique position on this board. It's not just a commissioner. She's also the president of NOACA and is materially involved with what I'm going to talk about today. And so, first of all, thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to speak. I think this is very, very important. It warrants much more time than I'm going to take today to talk about this. I do want to make a public correction on the record. I listened to the last commissioner meetings, the last 2 commissioner meetings, so I could have my facts straight, and there were some misrepresentations of things that I've said and done. I do want to make it very clear. At the executive meeting that I attended for NOACA, the executive meeting started very late, about an hour late. I was there. I had another prior commitment. I wasn't planning on being there to the extent of the time that I was there. But I was there for the first part of the meeting. I've listened to the entire audio for the meeting, so I know exactly what was said and what was done in that meeting. I did talk to Mary prior to the meeting. She showed me the 3 alternative wordings for the resolution that was being put into NOACA, and I commented to her before she did that none of those 3 alternative wordings were acceptable from my perspective, because they did nothing more than change the name from NEO 2040 to regional initiatives. And so I'm going to talk about that this morning. So there are a number of concerns that I have relative to what NOACA is doing. And by the way, I talked to Joe this morning. I have reached out to a number of other counties in Ohio who are not part of an MPO, particularly Columbiana County, because it's 110,000 population surrounded by MPOs, and they made a specific choice
not to be in an MPO. So it is possible to get your roads paved, to do your bridges, and not be in an MPO. That's not to say we should or shouldn't. That's not assessing whether it's a good thing or a bad thing to be in NOACA. But it is to say that there are different approaches that could and maybe should be considered. And so, all we need to do is ask the question. Sometimes it is a smart thing to at least consider alternatives and options. I'm very concerned about what I'm seeing in NOACA for a variety of reasons. Not just what's happening with NEOACC, but let me touch on that first. NEOACC is a regional authority that was started with the combination with 5 different MPOs involved. Is it 5 or 4? I think it's 5. No, if you read the MAP 21 law, which I have read, it's 586 pages. I haven't read it in detail. I haven't studied it, but I have read it. And I have a copy on my laptop. I can provide anybody who wants a copy. There's a 14-page summary that is relatively easy to read. Nowhere in that federal law does it give NOACA and or the other MPOs the authority to establish a regional authority called NEOACC. They took a $4.6 million grant to create this organization. And if you look at what this organization is doing, it is an overreach from what their authority happens to be, from my perspective. I'm going to read to you a comment. I'm trying to be brief. I'm trying to focus on a few high points to give you a sense for what is happening, so maybe that will lead to a deeper conversation, because it's very complicated and it gets very difficult to understand, but that is typical of a bureaucracy that wants to lead us in a direction, in their direction, not necessarily in the direction that the people want to go. This is what NEOACC wrote in their grant application. It gives you a flavor of what they're thinking. They wrote, historic patterns of development have not led to an equal distribution of community amenities or access to jobs, education, neighbor services, open spaces, transit, and municipal programs. This has resulted in disparities in health, income, food access, education, employment options. Our regional planning effort will identify how best to deploy the resources to address these historic inequities. NEOACC said their objective was to redistribute wealth. NOACA's objective and goal is roads and bridges. They created an organization to redistribute wealth. I ask you, does that make any sense to you?
Right.
2 years ago, I mentioned to Mary and to Tracy Jameson, as a commissioner, and Dave knows this because I was sitting there, this organization is not good. We need to pass a resolution right now opposing them. I'm here today not as a political thing. I'm running against Mary as a county commissioner. Everybody knows that. But I am not here today as her opponent in that candidacy. I am here as a concerned citizen. For 2 years I've been working at this. I am very concerned at what I'm seeing in NEOACC because they are about a regional plan. And you'll see in that letter a very interesting dynamic or dimension that nobody knows about. Keep in mind that this board, the NEOACC board, they refer to them as NEASC, it's easier to pronounce. That NEASC board is an unelected, unaccountable board. The majority of the board, there are some elected officials on the board, but they're not elected by us. They're not elected by the people that are in our community. So they're not responsible to them. The people, the citizens in our county cannot impact who's on that board, and they can't impact their decision process. That is an unaccountable, unelected board. Sitting on that board is the Cleveland History Museum, who came in here and purchased property which was removed from our tax rolls. That is a part of the NEASC plan. If you look at their plan, if I showed you the presentation that I have, and you looked at the NEASC data, again, looking at their data shows you what they want to accomplish. It is not me saying this, they say this, and they don't hide from it. Hunter Morrison, who is selling their plan, does not hide from his plan. We're just ignorant and not willing to look at his plan for the goodness in the plan. They say they want to triple the numbers of parks in our county. I ask you, would the citizens want that? Do they want to pay for that? Do they want to pay for the maintenance on that? Should we not talk about that? And what authority does NOACA have to do that? Beyond NEOSC, set NEOSC aside for just a second. I don't know if you read the policy document. This is the policy document that I objected to in NOACA. I sit on the policy committee. When I saw the policy document, I was a bit disturbed. In their policy document, they have phrases, and again, the resolution we passed opposing NEOSC, the wording that they approved in the executive committee, which was our sole opportunity. We had one opportunity in that executive committee to thwart what NEOSC is doing. We lost it because it's going to go to the board, and the board is going to vote to approve it. And yet they're hiding from that because it should be on this agenda coming up this Friday. It's being moved off until July, till after the election, I believe. That's just my feeling on it. But the wording that was selected changed NEO 2040, or changed the wording from NEO 2040 will no longer be included to, we accept all regional initiatives. NEO 2040 is a regional initiative. By simply changing the name, you've accomplished nothing. Mary voted in the unanimous vote for that. I would love to be able to ask her the question, why would you vote to undermine a resolution that was passed by our county commissioners, including herself? And she voted, even though I pointed out to her before her vote that that wasn't acceptable. And so the people in this room should ask the president of NOACA why it is, and I believe this, that she voted to undermine her own resolution. I'd like for her to be accountable to that. Again, setting NEOSC aside, if you look at the NOACA policies, and I'm reading this is right out of their policy, so it says they're going to work with governments in the region as well as state and federal authorities to promote cost sharing. Ask your citizens, and many of them are in this room, and many of them are in the county, if you ask them, would they be for transferring their wealth, that's what cost sharing is, us sharing projects in Cleveland, would they be in favor of that? I believe strongly that the answer to that question is no. And yet that was never addressed. And I pointed that out to the entire board, including Mary, that cost sharing I was very concerned about. I don't want my tax dollars going to Cleveland to promote some of the programs that they have going on, because I don't think that they're smart programs. They also want to build on strategies to achieve regional cohesion. They're creating a regional bureaucracy in which we will have no say. The NOACA board is a regional authority in which we have 3 votes, and those 3 votes are outweighed by the 44. In essence, there are unelected, I refer to even those elected officials that are on that board, they're unelected by us. They're accountable to us, the people that are in this room and the rest of the citizens in Geauga County. It's an unelected, unaccountable board. Now, whether there's an argument, the argument may be made that we should be in NOACA because, as Joe might say, we get some money back through NOACA. I don't know if it's worth selling our soul for, but let's say I go with that argument. At the very least, we should be pushing back on many of the policies, pushing back harder on the policies, and we do nothing in that meeting. We push back on nothing. For 10 years, Mary has been a commissioner, and I'm not trying to take a shot at Mary, but she is the president of the board, and Tracy was there before, and Bill Young before, and we have never fought for a minimum standard of having 3 commissioners and an engineer on that board. Why? That should be the minimum standard on that board, to have our county engineer on that board. We've never brought that up and fought for that. Why? I asked to make a presentation to that board. I've been asking to make a presentation for 2 years. People in this room know that. I've asked Valerie McCall before Mary. I have asked Grace Galucci a dozen times. I'm told, well, it takes time to be able to make that presentation. 2 years? 2 years time does it take? And I have an email to document this from Grace Galucci and from Mary saying, well, before you can make the presentation, we have to vet your presentation. So they have to agree to the presentation that I'm going to make. I consider that intimidation and an invasion of my free speech rights. As a representative of Mr. Spitaleri, that's the only approval I need to get. I've made thousands of presentations in my career. The only approval I've ever had to have was from the person that I worked for. In this case, because I'm Ralph's alternate, he was the person that I would need to get his approval, because we represent these people in this room. We do not represent NOACA. And so the question I would ask for Mary, if you were here, Mary, and I'm sure you're going to listen to this video, is who do you represent? Do you represent the people in Geauga County, or do you represent NOACA? And if you represent the people in this county, why are you not standing up where I'm sitting today and defending the people in Geauga County? It shouldn't be me pushing back. It should be all of you. And Blake and Ralph, you're relatively new here, so you're not as close to this. I've been on this for 2 years. And so, I'm here appealing to you to get more information. I'm going to just touch on some things today, but it's far, far deeper than this. And there is, as you can see, a statewide effort right now to educate people and wake people up. But we are fighting a bureaucratic behemoth that is funded with millions of our tax dollars. And it is very hard for a grassroots organization to fight that kind of clout and that kind of power, particularly when they will not allow us to have a seat at the table to at least have a reasonable debate. And that is all we've asked for. I have signatures of 1,000 people that I gave to Grace Gallucci. 1,000 individuals said, let our voices be heard. 450 people showed up at a forum that I formed in which we had Hunter Morrison in the room providing his case so that we could have an honest debate. All I've asked at the NOACA table is to let the people's voices be heard. I've asked Mary, who is the president of NOACA, let the people's voices be heard. That's all we ask. We're not asking to make a decision. We're simply asking for the counter side to be heard. And so I appeal to the two of you in support. The people should have the right to have their voice at that table and not have it controlled by the bureaucracy, Grace Gallucci, who is an unelected, unaccountable employee of the board. I, as a representative, Ralph's representative, who represents the people, should not be told what we can say or not say in front of an elected board of individuals. We represent the people. We represent this county. We do not represent NOACA, from my perspective. Here is the statement that I'm hoping I've asked for, the new policy statements, because the new policy statements will reflect the change that was supposedly made by the executive committee. That phrase that was approved in the executive committee, and it was approved rapidly. I believe there was pre-agreement to that. It didn't, and I've got the audio again, which I can publish and provide to you at any point in time. It didn't take 30 seconds for them to say, we're going to pick, and it was Ed Fitzgerald, second in command, who said, oh, we should pick number 1. Everybody said yes. Okay, they vote aye, and it was unanimous vote. They voted aye. That phrase replaced this one. NOACA will work to promote and adopt strategies identified in the Vibrant 2040 plan. I'm expecting that. Well, we know that the new phrase is NOACA will also work to promote state, federal, regional initiatives, of which NEUSEC is part. People will say to me, well, NEOS can't do anything in our county without support, without doing something. There is a current list of, I forget how many properties, I think it's 5 properties that are right now in process of being purchased under a NEOS plan. Through Clean Ohio, they're getting federal funding and state funding to purchase property, large tracts of property in our state right now, or in our county right now. And how many of us know that? Do you know that? No. Right now, NEOS, and I have the list. It is their prototype list. They are in our county right now purchasing property, and nobody knows about it. Why? Because nobody will stand up and tell you what's going on. Because we have people baked into the system who will not stand up and defend Geauga County. Can you tell I'm a little upset?
No.
It's taken off the tax rolls, it's bad, that's for sure.
I'm seeing multiple references, I am going through the presentation, and there's multiple references to cost sharing. But the NEOSC has a plan, which they published, and I have a copy and I can forward it to you. It's a very comprehensive plan. It is a regional plan in which they will determine, the regional bureaucracy will determine where it's best for people to live, where it's best for companies to locate, how we will get from one point A to point B. In their regional plan, there's a rail system across the northern tier of Ohio, and another rail system that goes from Cleveland down to Columbus, all funded by our tax dollars in a cost-sharing mode. There's much more that I can go into, and I've just touched on the surface of many of my concerns, but the biggest concerns that I have right now is, even though we have pulled out NEOSC supposedly out of their plan, if you look at, and I should probably plug this into the projectors so that people can actually see this eyeball to eyeball. Anybody who wants a copy, this is right out of the NOACA document, so this isn't even me. There's a regional transportation initiative or investment policy. In that regional initiative policy, one of the core objectives is to revitalize the downtown core urban areas. You do not see reference to revitalizing Geauga County. All of the plan involves transferring our dollars into the core urban areas and improving the core urban areas. This organization undermines the authority of all elected officials. It is a bureaucracy that supports itself and is enabled by itself, and it undermines the authority that you guys, we elect you. If I want to see a change, if I don't like the way Blake, the commissioner's office is working, I can go beat up on Blake, or I can beat up on Mary, or I can beat up on Ralph, or I can choose to run against you because I don't like what's going on. I can do nothing with that bureaucratic board. I can't fire Grace Galucci. I can only do that at the table in Cleveland if I choose to. So I can forward more documents to you. You got to take a look at the policy document coming out of NOACA, because it's not just NEOSC that's in that plan. And if you look at that policy document, I would ask you to read it under the context. Look at it through the filter of roads and bridges. MAP 21, which is the federal law that oversees NOACA and all the MPOs, is roads and bridges, basically. It includes a little bit of air and water quality, too. But generally speaking, it is our infrastructure. When you look at the policy document, you will see education, economic development, health care. NOACA now wants to extend its tentacles well beyond roads and bridges. And so I won't go on and on and on about this any longer, but I'll ask you to get educated, look at the policy document, and look at it through the lens of roads and bridges. If you consider that the federal mandate says roads and bridges, if we can't keep NOACA in that box, then I'm not sure that being in NOACA is the smartest thing to do, because NOACA is basically Cuyahoga County steering the region. And I don't vote for people in Cuyahoga County. I don't like their values. I like your values. The people that we elect in Geauga County, I like their values. That's the reason they get elected. Most people in this room, I don't think, would really appreciate the values that we see at the people at that table when we go meet in NOACA. They're nice people. They just think differently than we do. So, I don't know. Did I send you that presentation? I didn't. I sent a presentation to Ralph, and I don't know if
Oh, no, I never saw that.
So, there is a presentation that I would love to show you, and this will be the last comment that I made. Then people can ask me questions or whatever. One of the presentation slides that NEOSC uses shows Geauga County as their first ring and second ring suburbs. That's how they define us, as first ring, second ring suburbs. That's today. Now, I object to that. I don't think I'm in Cuyahoga County's first ring, second ring suburb. But their 2040 vision of Geauga County, 2040, is that first ring, second ring suburb doesn't exist anymore. sounds phenomenal to me. Until you relate it to a comment made to me in a work session in Nowaka, when they were discussing goals and objectives. And the people at that table, there was the consultant, which I would have fired because I think she was incompetent. But she asked the question, what is your vision of 2040? And the people at that table said to me, our vision of this, and it was unanimous, it was Ed Fitzgerald, second in command, Lake County Commissioners, the Transit Authority out of Cleveland. The comment was, densely populated communities surrounded by green space. I don't know if you're good with that or not. I'm not. I asked the question about the U.S. Constitution. Doesn't that kind of violate the constitutional authority of, giving people a place to live? If you look at the Ohio Constitution and our federal Constitution, private property rights are paramount. They said that the Constitution is an old and a useless document and that we needed to do the smart thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm old. Maybe the oath that I took to uphold the Constitution shouldn't be valued anymore, but I value it. And so, that is just a teaser. I've got so much information I could overwhelm you guys with the plan that NEOSC has. And I'm hoping that you wouldn't agree with much of that plan. So with that said, I don't know if there's questions from the audience or not. If you have questions, I won't go on and on any longer. It wasn't necessarily brief, but I think I made my point.
Just if you have a question, you just need to state your name for Christine for the record.
Diane Jones, Auburn Township, and at the initial part of your presentation, you referenced the communication from Sagamore Hills trustees. I would appreciate knowing its contents and the identity of the 3 trustees. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, John, I'll be darned, Zaffardelli.
By the way, just for everybody's reference here in the audience, I'll read the key point in this. They're disturbed by there's a lot that goes into the NEOSC plan. A lot of it is very, very subtle and hidden. And people say, well, that can't really hurt me. But one of the tools that is used is what they refer to as a mixed-use designation or planned unit overlay district. So they have all these words that are hard to understand, get your head around, all that kind of stuff. In essence, it is them creating a set of zoning rules which override the zoning rules in your local communities. So they will create a set of policies that will usurp the local planning authority zoning rules. And so if you ask the question, how can they be successful? Well, they're successful, first of all, because they're backed by Department of Transportation, HUD, and EPA, who have a huge amount of authority, and they have the purse strings. And when EPA sets a set of rules, a lot of people say, well, what am I going to do? I have to follow those rules. Now, yes and no, I guess. I would maybe think there's a way to challenge that. But that's how that gets accomplished. A regional authority done through NOACA with NOACA's authority, baked into and very subtly winds its way into the policies. When they're supposed to be working on roads and bridges, now they're all of a sudden doing zoning because part of the plan is, well, we've got to help people to decide the best way to get to work. And maybe that best way to get to work is mass transit, or maybe that best way to work is a bicycle. Or they have something called a multimodal study, which says what mode of transportation is best for what you're trying to accomplish.
Hey, Skip, if I can, Joe, not to put you on the hot seat, but just, I mean, a lot of this has to do with you, so you're the blame of this.
He's not allowed at the table.
Actually, I would disagree with that. The commissioners are on the board and they pay to be members of it. I don't.
No, just
with all due respect. I know you're kidding.
I'm just kidding with you on that, but your take on this as far as...
I don't disagree with what Skip said about NOACA was set up to provide funding for roads and bridges, and it seems to be a lot of their attention has been scattered in different directions, and it's not focused on that. You know, as far as their involvement in NEOSCC, I wouldn't even see why NOACA would, with what they're supposed to be doing, why they'd even be contemplating that. I deal with NOAC on the ends of, I program my stuff that we need to get funding for. We get it in there, we get it done. Geauga County has done pretty well in NOACA, and it's really only because we're about 4% of their pot, so they kind of leave us alone. So we've received what would be considered a fair amount back, but I wouldn't disagree with what Skip has said. The direction they're going in, we've lost some voting rights on the board there as far as percentage goes in the reorganization. There's some other things that I stood up against, and when you're only 4% of the vote down there, it really, it's hard to be taken seriously.
And as far as like,
and I personally am not even on the board.
When you've talked to some of the other counties, like Skip mentioned, Columbiana County, 110,000 people. We've got 96,000 here. And they're still able to fund projects and stuff like that. I mean, have you had discussions with some of the other engineers in some of those counties to say
the ones that aren't getting funds? I haven't spoke with Bert Dawson, which is Columbiana County engineer, about this. When they talk, they still get federal funding. There's more than one pot. NOACA is not the only pot. Some federal funds go through the County Engineers Association, through the state and so forth, and then they're distributed from there. We do get those funds. So when another county says, oh, we're not in an MPO, but we get federal funds, so why are you in an MPO? Well, they're missing out on this other pot that their taxpayers are pumping gas, paying tax. It's going to the feds, it's going to an MPO, and by virtue of them not being in an MPO, they can't get that. So it's a little misleading. Certainly if Bert Dawson has found a way to get what's going to the MPOs without being in the MPOs, it's certainly worth talking to, and I do plan on talking to him about it. Skip just brought that up to me before I walked in here this morning.
Because
Bert's been around forever. He's been county engineer down there since 1969.
Yeah. I mean, it's a situation where, you know, and I think that, you know, when Commissioner Rear came in December, was it? December, January, November. I mean, that was the one thing that came up as far as, you know, with this whole, the NOACA change, because we both agreed you should be an official member on there and we should have four positions there. But my biggest position is that, you know, I have Skip as my alternate because of the fact that he stays on top of this more than I think any commissioner would because he's passionate about it and he does a great job with this, and it's something. But my position is this: is I think that I can speak for myself, and I think that some of the comments that even Commissioner Rear has made is that if, you know, if there's a way that we could get out of this, of being able to still get the funds that we need to get out of, you know something, I mean, we need to make the fast track to get something figured out. And if it's a situation that we can do that, I mean, I can't stand going down to those meetings. And what those meetings are basically, I feel like I'm in a state of dictatorship when I walk in there, that I'm basically like part of this regime to just basically, here it is, and this is, we're all voting this, and you don't have a choice. And if you say something else, you know, I walk out of there, you know, looking around because I'm waiting for a pistol to come out to the back of my head and get executed on the way out just for bucking the system. It's very, very uncomfortable. And my position is they put this new meeting room that has pushed the public completely out of the way for and at the end of the day is a government that runs without public input is basically a government that is just going to control you, and I can't stand it. And you know something, those people are like sheep that are in that Cuyahoga County that are just going to follow whatever they want to follow. Somebody, you know, dresses in a fancy suit and tie or a fancy dress and has a whole bunch of titles behind her name. They believe that that's the second coming. I don't, you know, and I think common sense has to prevail. If there's a way that we could, you know, even if we can bring whether we have to go to them or we could bring them here or start to get some discussion in place. I just think that this is only the beginning. I was extremely upset as far as what the Natural History Museum coming in here, and then we have an auditor that's also going to take that approach of basically recommending this when he's ultimately the guy that's paying the, you know, writing the checks, and it's a situation where we're going down a very, very slippery slope here with all of this land grab that's going on, and we don't have the ability as private citizens to be able to buy anything because you're competing with public dollars as the other bidder. And guess what? You're not going to win that. And I can speak of it even more because I've got a personal situation myself that I have happened to myself in this case that's going on right now with this. And I can tell you that it's bad. It's bad, it's bad, and it's bad. And we need to stop this. We struggle enough. I mean, Mr. Lair could tell you he's pulling his hair out. That's why he's thinning up above there. As far as our tax revenue, we're losing tax revenue daily to these situations. You know, and nobody saw, like with the Natural History Museum, they took that other piece of property that was almost $25,000 a year off of the tax rules at Bass Lake Community. Somebody made a fat check with public funds. And guess what? We get slapped in the face now. We have no tax revenue. We're worried about this whole deal with Chardon over the course of with that RID, which is terrible. But it's a situation where after 30 years, that'll be over. This is lifetime. This is our kids, our grandkids, and when you go back in time, you know, and you look you look back 200 years ago, that 30 year is very, very detrimental to us. But when you look at what those tax rule, that no taxes on this property forever, it will far exceed what we're ever going to lose with that Chardon deal, because, and it just continues to go more and more and more. And it's going to get to the point that the reality is you will not be able to live in this county. Your kids will not be able to live in this county because you will not be able to support the services because somebody's at the end of the day has got to pay for it. We run a absolute, you know, skeleton manpower county, and our employees do not make tons and tons of money, and they do the best that they can. I could just imagine what's going to happen if this continues to go and all these public funds just continue to pour into these locations. It's bad, and I just think that, Joe, we got to figure out a way that we can try to, you know, if there's a way that, and my concern is you, in the sense of you being able to have funds to keep our roads up to specs in this county. But, you know, I'm very upset. I'm upset with it because I actually took the time to listen to exactly what Commissioner Claypool said about the wording on that. My agreement when I voted at this table was to take that wording out, and I am disappointed with Commissioner Samiti because you can say, you know, potato or potato, and it's the same thing, and basically what we've got in there is the same thing that we tried to push to, and that we agreed to take out. And so I do feel slighted also with that, and it's just a situation where I think that there's just, we have to put the fast track to figure out what we could do with this. And I think that the biggest thing, and I'm not speaking for Commissioner Rear, but I think that the fast track is going to be this, is I think that this board right now potentially could have two good supporters of getting this thing put to rest and getting something figured out with this, that we could just get beyond this whole NOACA deal, because it is a major, you know, problem.
Well, if I might, I want to say one thing, that we don't have 4 people, we have 3 people.
Right.
I have never been to one of these meetings. I'll be going Friday because Joe can't go. But when I came here, I felt that the real emphasis was that the engineer
Right.
have a seat on that
Absolutely.
down there, because it's supposedly about roads and bridges. So I don't know that much about roads and bridges, except if they have a chuckle. So I made him my alternate. I see, and they may be, you may want to correct me here, but I see two issues. I see NOACA is one issue, and NEOSEC is another issue. Okay, NEOSEC is getting their funding from NOACA.
They get their funding from the federal government.
Okay.
So they get it from the EPA, Department of Transportation, and HUD. HUD is the lead organization. They have a third organization that was created at the federal level called Sustainable Communities. Sustainable Communities is funding these regional efforts across the country, not just here, but across the country, because the federal government has an agenda to steer the states in the direction the federal government wants us to go.
Okay, so how does withdrawing from NOACA, which I can understand could have a negative effect on the money that we get for our infrastructure, roads and bridges. We may be able to get it some other way, but Skip, you've been working on this for years, and you haven't come up with an alternative way to get it. You say we can quit, and you may be right, but I haven't heard how we're gonna quit. So
Well, just to be clear, and I'm sorry, but
Okay.
just so I can be very, very clear, I've not said we should quit NOACA, okay?
Okay.
I'm not sure that NOACA works in our best interest, and right now with what they're doing with NEOSC, that's definitely raising huge concerns, because this is a huge overreach. So,
Right.
you know, the goodness of NOACA, if we could get NOACA back on, focused on bridges and not this other regional stuff, which I consider nonsense, okay, maybe I could live with that, particularly if we had some influence in there, if we had the ability to be able to control our destiny through there. But
So it is two separate issues.
so
I
it's
mean,
two separate issues for me now.
but they're joined with this alliance that's currently in place.
I'm not convinced that our best interest, though, isn't served. I just don't know. I mean, this is not for me to decide, it's for a discussion. I'm not sure that our best interest isn't served, and maybe leaving NOACA. Maybe leaving that $2 million on average that we get a year behind is a smart thing to do, given the price that we have to pay for that.
How will that
And
affect
so-
the fact they'll still get their funding from either NOACA or the federal government or whoever? They're still going to get NEOSEC is still going to get their funding. And if they have the money and they come to Geauga County with their money, then it comes down to whether the property owner who's planning on moving to Arizona wants to sell them their land or not. I mean, we can't impose restrictions.
Let me just.
I don't know, I'm asking, I don't have a.
Well, it's a situation like that National History Museum. Perfect example is that piece of property on Wilson Mills. If we would have said no, they wouldn't have gotten it. And not to put you on the spot, but you said yes, Mary said yes, I said no. So they were able to move forward to get that property. If you would have said no and I would have said no, it would have been a done deal. They would not have gotten that.
Well,
But that was part of
it
that.
was still for sale.
But here's the thing that
They just wouldn't have used that Ohio.
but they would not have qualified for the grant because part of the grant required us to approve that to be done, and that's why it's so critical for us to be able to push back on that. Because if we would have said no once, guess what? They're going to think the second time to come back, and when they come back second time, we say no again. And we say no the third time, they're going to finally stop.
Well, at this point in time, though, they're already in Geauga County buying up tracts of money using private dollars.
That's
and
what
they
I
don't
said.
have to come to this board
We
to
don't-
do that.
And I understand it, but
They
that
did
was
that
a
in that
public
situation.
dollar situation.
No,
If
you're
we would have
absolutely,
said no,
absolutely right.
they would not have gotten those dollars.
That's right,
And
but-
they ran out of on the time frame on that of being they were within like 1 week that they had to do that of being able to qualify for that. And at that point, it's like, hey, and you know something? It's just like this. If they wanted to come in and buy it under public or private dollars that they've got, then let them burn their money, and then hopefully they'll go away.
And they'll
But
pay
when
taxes
it's-
with it too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Look-
no, not necessarily.
Look at
Not necessarily.
NOACA from
necessarily
a
on
different
the,
perspective.
taxes.
Until Ralph showed up, nobody mentioned the fact that we could use alternative dollars on buggy trails. Mary continued to say, and Tracy before her, when they were together, used to say, those alternative dollars coming through NOACA have to be used on a bicycle trail. You can't do it any other way.
All right.
That's not true. The reason they thought that is because they were told that at NOACA, and they don't have, there are people who want the title, and there are people who want to do the work. They want the title. I'm sorry for saying this. I'll bet my time. I'll bet my time on that.
It would be better
So-
if you didn't make personal attacks.
So I'm not trying to make it personal. I'm trying to make a statement that the elected officials, we have so many of them that do not read the bills. Nancy Pelosi, got to pass it to find out what's in it. There are so many elected officials who do not read the laws, MAP 21, do not read the grant applications that come through our block grant applications, so on and so forth. And what's the outcome of that? The outcome of that is they don't know what their rights are. They're not protecting the people from the perspective of they don't know all the facts. Ralph was smart enough to pick up on it that, we could use this alternative dollars to do buggy trails instead of bicycle trails. Now, we just had a young guy killed down in Middlefield. We might have, had we been putting our dollars, redirecting our dollars there, we might have saved a life. Who knows? That's that kind of thing that I think most of the people in this room would like to see. If we're going to be in NOACA, let's at least be smart about it. Let's work with our county engineer to say, how can we be smart about this? Maximize our value out of that, and minimize their impact in our county. And so, again, I'm sitting here as a citizen right now asking, because who knows whether I'm going to win this election or not. But regardless of that, I'm not going away. As a citizen, I'd like to see more responsible government, and that means reading the law, reading the bills, reading the things that NOACA is putting out there so that we can thwart some of the stuff like NIAS.
Tom Jones, Auburn Township. It's a question for Skip. Mary, and many times here, has mentioned that over the years, over the last 10 years, we've received back $30 million from NOACA for our roads. Do you know how much money has been collected on that gas tax?
Using the county engineer, 95,000 registered cars. Joe told me 95,000 cars in Geauga County. If you do a simple calculation based on the AAA averages, 25 miles to the gallon, 15,000 miles per year, we pay out, Geauga County citizens contribute about $10 million a year in federal gas tax dollars. We get back about 2 to 4, an average about 2 in Geauga County. So that's $20 million over 10 years that we get back, but we're paying out $100 million. I don't know, I don't think that's a very good return personally. We pay out 28 cents a gallon at the state level, and the state by law, and I have a document that shows this formula, the state has a formula for this. The state keeps 75%, so we get back about $4 million, $4.4 million thereabouts on our state roads. We pay in 16. Again, not a very good return. And why is it we're not getting a better return? Because people aren't focused on it. People don't say, oh, we're only getting 4.4 million. Why is this? Talk to the Department of Transportation. Talk to our state representatives, John Eklund and Matt Lynch and Dave Joyce and whoever's representing us, and saying, guys, we're not getting a very good return here, and see about improving them. By the way, for whatever it's worth, the MAP 21 law, which was written by Barbara Boxter, is right now in committee being revised. And so there is an opportunity for us to influence the outcome of that law, which governs how NOACA works. That's one aspect of this whole NOACA issue. We ought to probably be looking at where that's going. NOACA lobbies Washington for an outcome. I've asked for what our lobbyist is going to lobby for. Nobody in NOACA yet will tell me what our lobbyist that we pay for, all of us pay for, is going to lobby for. Are they going to lobby for us, or are they going to lobby against us? Are they going to lobby for a gas tax increase, which is what the last thing I heard was. They wanted to lobby for a 18 cents on a gallon gas tax increase. What is our lobbyist that we're paying to go to Washington? What are we lobbying for? Another aspect of this.
Now, who is our lobbyist? Is that
Virginia Ainsley.
Virginia, yeah. And she lobbies, she's a liberal person, so from whatever it's worth, she tends to lobby for what Cuyahoga County wants her to lobby for. Guess who sits on the board, the chief person on the board for the Legislative Council? Valerie McCall, who is Mayor Jackson's second in command. Which way do you think the lobbyist is going to go? I don't know. Let me think about this for just a second. Gas increase. That's what I'm betting. Let me throw one other thing for you to think about NOACA. Map 21 does not tell the states how to organize their MPOs. The states are free to organize their MPOs any way they want to. NOACA is unique in the state of Ohio. It is a council of governments. AMATs, SCATs, EATSCATE, which were the other ones that I'm most familiar with, are not council of governments. They're just part of the planning organization that exists down in those communities. And so NOACA as a council of governments has kind of a unique situation. And so I only bring that up to say maybe an approach with these MPOs, because if they're not working in our best interest, we've got a group of unelected officials who are kind of making decisions, steering us. I mean, again, I don't choose them, I choose you. I may not like you, I may like you, I don't know, but I don't choose them. I can impact you, I can't impact them. Maybe what we need to do is go down to our state legislators and say, you know, this whole MPO thing's not working well in Ohio. We need to reconfigure it so that it represents what the people of Ohio want it to be, and its focus is on roads and bridges, not planning our counties, not planning how we live. When I buy a piece of dirt in Chesterland, I want to be able to live in that piece of dirt. I want to have some say over that piece of dirt without intrusion from Cleveland telling me how I've got to live, what the outcome of my water is going to be, and all that kind of stuff. So that's just another piece of thought for you. We're not out of control. We can't just throw up our hands and say, well, there's nothing we can do. It's the federal government. No, there's a lot we can do. We just haven't sat down and talked about it yet. This is opening up the discussion, and I really appreciate the starting point, because this is where it starts.
One thing I want to clarify with the gas tax, and you can, if I'm wrong, you can correct me.
Mm-hmm.
The gas tax doesn't come from or can't be assigned to a region, a resident. It's paid at the pump. If I drive my car and I work in Cleveland and I fill my tank in Cleveland, then that gas tax is collected in Geauga County, even though I live in Geauga County. If someone lives in Geauga County or Medina and they come out here and fill up in Chardon, they pay the gas tax at this at the service station here. And so that's credited to taxes from Geauga County. Joe, correct me. I mean, they don't ask me where I am when I buy my gas.
No, interestingly enough, the gas tax is a little odd in that they collect it all statewide. It goes into one pool, and then it's divided, as far as what the county would get, it's divided by 88. So the smallest little bittiest county
gets as much money as the biggest.
Geauga, same as we do in that realm. There's other monies around and stuff, but that, yeah, it has nothing to do with where in the state of Ohio you pump gas.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Obviously, we're a very wealthy county in Geauga, tied for, or I think we alternate between first and second, don't we, with Delaware? And we're going to get the same return on the gas we buy as Athens or some other county.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So Joe, then,
and their whole philosophy on that is the little counties that don't have a means of revenue, it at least gives them something. I'm not going to argue whether it's fair or not. It's just the way it is.
So
it just can't be assigned to the residents of a county.
Exactly. It does
That's
not.
all.
Yeah, like if you say, well, I want to help our county out, I'm going to buy gas right here instead of, before I get on 90. Well, no, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But the point being, I mean, there's differences in how you can look at it. I'm a resident of Geauga County. No matter where I buy gas in Ohio, I'm paying tax to the state of Ohio.
Correct.
And so it makes no difference whether I buy it in Cleveland. I'm a resident of this county. And so all of my tax dollars go into this Ohio state pool. I'd like to see my county at least return the money that I pay in, regardless of where I pay it. And I'm looking at a sheet. There's a whole formula. There's a PDF that you can download from tax.ohio.gov. It talks about everything Joe just talked about and how it's distributed and so on and so forth. Geauga County gets, this is a 2013 document, $2.2 million. There's percentages associated with cities and towns. Everybody gets a little slice of that pie, so to speak.
So Joe, does Cuyahoga County then just get $2.2 million
I
too?
believe that's true. There's other means of funding though. When you start talking about, Skip right now is talking about the state sales tax, and on the gas, there's not only state, but there's federal on that too. And then that gets distributed differently, and part of that's what NOACA gets, and that's all just, it's not as cut and clear as the state. Now, my personal opinion is when the gas tax was initiated, it was the best, most fair thing to do. If people used the roads, they bought gas, it went to the roads. It made complete sense. No one else could get their hands on it. People couldn't take the money, and they couldn't build, well, back in the beginning, you couldn't build bicycle trails with it. Now we're seeing that's possible. So it was truly a user tax. If you didn't use the roads, you didn't pay for it. One of the few taxes in this country that made sense. You're not taking it and shipping it off to DC and not get it back. So it was a user tax. Now, unfortunately, what's happened over the years is, as the cost of building roads, asphalt and stuff has gone up tremendously. It rises with the cost of fuel, generally speaking. And there's more to it than that. I could go on forever, but the cost of asphalt's gotten enormous, where yet the gas tax really hasn't changed much. And the problem also being is the fuel prices rise. We're not a percentage of that. We're actually cents per gallon. So when gas went from $1 a gallon to $4 a gallon, people stopped driving as much. So when they stopped driving as much, we still have this infrastructure to maintain. So when they stopped driving as much, we stopped getting as revenue. And then what happened is the federal government stepped in and said, we're going to make the auto industry have their entire fleet has to get a certain miles per gallon. Well, by doing that,
They use less.
now they reduce the usage of fuel. Well, once again, you're pulling out of that money that should be going to the roads. And I'm not saying I'm against having more efficient cars, but everything they're doing is working against the system they set up without them setting a correction factor in there. And then on top of it, they go and give these huge federal returns to people for buying electric cars. Well, those people are paying nothing to be on these roads. And so the whole system is working against itself. And while some more revenue to Geauga County would be good, I don't think a gas tax is any longer the answer, because not everybody that's using the road is paying into that. It's just not working that way. So, when you talk about this crazy 18 cents, well, they're talking about that on the federal level, if I'm not mistaken. Is that true, Skip?
Well, no, the form that I have, it actually has a breakdown. There's 5 different levies.
No, I'm talking the new one they wanted, that they're talking
Oh,
about.
yeah, the new one, the new tax increase is a federal level, that's right.
Yeah.
They want to take it from 18.5 to 36.
We already said we're only getting about 20% back that we pay out, so they take another 18 cents per gallon.
And so how much is that going to cost you in groceries and guns and, all the stuff that you have to buy? If you're paying 36, if the guys who are driving the trucks around pay 36 cents on a gallon, that's a huge impact on our economy. And by the way, just as a side note on this, in 1961, the MPO was established. And there was a promise made. This is part of the issue that I have with our bureaucratic system that we have set up. There was a promise made that would be used, the 18 cents on the gallon, to pay for our roads and bridges. And we agreed to that. We voted for that, and our elected officials voted, and everybody applauded and said what a great thing this was. We're going to save society. It was a great society era, so on and so forth. In 1991, President George H.W. Bush, with an executive order, said we're going to now include mass transit, environment, bicycle trails, all these other things that would take money away from the roads and dilute the money we've got for filling potholes. And so now we hear complaints, we don't have money to fill the potholes, but we've got great, beautiful bicycle trails downtown Cleveland, and one coming to Chardon. Now, I will take this moment, and sorry, gentlemen and ladies, we have a great county engineer. And I'm just going to give him a little kudo here, because he works against all odds to take care of our roads, and we got good roads. And he works around the nonsense of the federal government, all that kind of stuff. So you can applaud our county engineer, because he's doing a great job. We can bitch a little bit about putting in a bridge here and there, and cutting down a tree here and there, and all that kind of stuff. But overall, we can give great thanks to Joe Patel. So,
Thanks.
and I expect a big. So
You asked for a half hour.
Yeah, we got it.
And you're about 25 minutes over that, which is okay. I'm just saying we got to wrap this up before noon here. And
is there a next step? Can I ask for a next step? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think we need to get a hold of Columbiana and talk to them a little more.
Relative to NOAC, I'm going to be at the meeting on Friday, and Blake, you're going to be at the meeting.
Yeah, Joe can't make it.
And so I have asked to make a presentation on NEASC. It is a ceremonial presentation, because the board is going to pass the NEASC, or the resolutions as they currently stand, And, you know, again, I would just say, we need to wake up, because what they are baking into the money that we get from NOACA, it's very concerning to me. So I would like to see, I mean, you don't have deeper content. I have, you know, tons and tons of stuff I could dump on you. I can give you the proposal, or the plan from NEOSC, and maybe if you've got some reading time at night when you're watching TV, you can.
We passed the resolution from this table asking that to be removed. I don't know what else we can do officially. We passed it, said we were going to be removed. We can go down and talk to people and see if we can make change. But the main thing, I see it as two different issues. There's the NOACA and the money for roads and bridges, and then there's this initiative that's a socialist initiative, I don't know how else to say it, that I think we're all against.
Well,
and if we don't control, if we don't have a way to shut their funding off,
let me suggest this
then
to you.
I don't know how you're going to.
Let me suggest this to you. We did pass the resolution, which I think was undermined by the vote in the executive committee. That that set of policies, look at the policy statements that I sent you. That set of policies, forget NAOSC, there's a whole bunch of other policies that aren't in a problem. Those policies have not been voted on yet. They have not been approved by the policy committee. We have an opportunity to eliminate cost sharing, to eliminate any reference to NEOSC in our county, period, whether regional initiative or other. We can make that extremely clear with another resolution or with an effort working through Mary or around Mary. But we still have an opportunity to thwart those policies, because I'm thinking, and I asked the question of Grace, and she's not responded to me. That's a problem. Grace needs to respond to me. I am on the policy committee, and she needs to understand that people who are on that committee need information. But that set of policies, they need to know what the next steps are. We can thwart that policy, or attempt to thwart that policy, or those things that are contained in that policy, if we resist it. And maybe we all need to go sit at that table and say, no, guys, these policies we oppose, we're against. Forget NEOSC, that's one of the policies we're opposing. But if you look at the policy document, you're going to see all kinds of other stuff in there. So.
And when you go, Blake, please visit the back room where they serve refreshments and expensive coffee, muffins and fruit, and that's where you will hear the candid conversation from the people who come there. And when they don't have to be in the presence of everybody else, that's when they talk and gripe about what's going on. And one in particular is Lake County Commissioner Al Feldish. Did I get that name right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So frequent that table, see who comes in, start a conversation there. And the folks that are too afraid to speak up in public, for fear they're going to stand out like a sore thumb, boy, do they gripe back there where the eats are. Just my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
thank you. I appreciate
is
it.
there somebody else? Did you have something else?
Tom, did you have something?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Skip. Okay, for the acknowledgements,
Friday, 10 o'clock, Cleveland.
mental health recovery services, dog report, consolidation of the investment portfolio and obligations and security was filed, treasurer's office. And for January and February, and then for the meetings, we have planning commission meeting
That
is
hasn't
on.
been canceled yet?
No, it won't be, because we have water resources stuff from the Thompson. No, it's just the three of them.
Oh, all three of us?
Yeah.
You're all
Okay, there's not one okay.
And you have the Geauga Township Association dinner will be in Russell on the 9th. Thursday's canceled. The Board of Revisions on the 14th. Are you available for that? You're my alternate.
The 14th is Monday.
Monday.
Yeah, as far as I know,
So that would be at 9 a.m. at the auditor's office?
the Board of Revision, 9 a.m., go for Blake. Okay.
So then Blake will do that. The commissioners will hold regular session on the 15th. Then we've got a Portage, Geauga Juvenile Detention Center Board of Directors, 2 p.m., Geauga County. Where will that be held at, Dave?
It'll probably be held in here.
And held in here, and that's going to be covering, do they have an agenda yet?
Yeah, we have some items, but then they put another agenda item on after they asked for.
I haven't seen a finalized.
Yeah, they sent us 4 things and said, could we have it on this date, this date, this date? We all agreed to the 15th, then they sent us another item that doesn't really need to be acted on until late in May.
Okay,
So I don't know where that's gonna go.
Yeah, I haven't seen a finalized agenda yet.
okay.
We have a split vote on that, you and I.
Okay. Family First Council will be on the 21st.
That's me.
The commissioners will hold a regular session on the 22nd. The commissioners will hold the nighttime meeting on the 24th, 6:30. The 28th will be the Board of Revisions at 9 o'clock on the 28th, one that might get canceled if there's not a lot of cases, but I'll be able to probably attend that
Well,
one.
just let me know if you can't make it out.
And then the commissioners will hold regular session again on the 29th.
Do we meet on election day?
We have a meeting scheduled, but it's up to you guys.
Well, no, I'm
whether
just
you would like
asking,
to.
I mean, it happens to be a Tuesday, I didn't know.
Right.
I mean, sometimes we cancel if we're
In
the
the
Tuesday after a
past-
holiday.
In the
and-
past, like many years ago, it had been canceled on that day because she always worked.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
polls.
her predecessor worked for the
But-
Board of Elections on that day, so they would cancel.
But
Clerk
I
wasn't
don't
here.
have here, so it's
I
up to
don't-
you guys.
I don't either, I was,
Mary didn't
it
have
was
a
a
problem
question,
with
not
having
an
a meeting,
opinion.
so-
Yeah, yeah, well, just have
Up
to
to
see
you.
how the workload
Well,
goes.
that's a few weeks away
Yeah,
yet, so.
yeah.
You wanna take this one to the lab?
Move to
Other than
adjourn.
that, so moved.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
So yeah, so